to change. And one thing I sense from the creative spirit is confidence. I mean, it's confident. It's not here to judge anything. It's here to fix it. If you get an injury in your body, you allocate more of your spiritual essence to that injury in that moment. Now, to those cells, it could seem like a real long time. Different scalar time reality. And you're thinking, well, how could God let this happen? Well, understand something. Imagine being the creative spirit. It's just you, right? You're all alone and you know it. Let's pretend there's a starting point. You know you're all there is. You're the largest of the large. You're not sitting there thinking you're going to meet somebody else. If you are, then you're not what I'm talking about. We'll have to go up on the scale. I'm talking about the creative spirit, right? And you have all this love, and that's your catalyst for creation. The fact that you're alone and you have love. Makes sense, right? If you're all alone, you want companionship. And if you're going to create, and this obviously is more than dissociation, this is divine creation we're talking about. And if you're going to do that, you're not going to make puppets that you control their every move. Why? Well, because you're doing it because you want life around you, companionship around you. You need it to be genuine. You're not going to get company or companionship by putting on a puppet show for yourself. Especially if you know you're doing it, you know? So you have to have free will, or a mind. And you can create beings that can go from one body to another body, to one world to another world, and have layers like that, sure. And you enjoy it because it's interesting to see how they perceive your creations, what they do with it, how they express it, and that's part of the enjoyment. And so you have to have free will for that, for your own needs, and it just works out that way. And it's all intertwined anyway in the scalar reality. But with free will, hey, you can ride your bike and fall off and skin your knee and bang it up. And the skin cells could be like, how could God let this happen, you awful God? You could lie in the sun too long and damage some cells and traumatize them, and then the consciousness in that cell disconnects from you and puts a bubble around itself out of fear and pain, and then tries to survive and perhaps becomes cancerous, which can be healed with love, by the way. You can stub your toe. The bone cells in your toe could be like, oh, it must be a bad God. How could this happen? Well, that's part of free will. It just is. It's just part of free will. And listen, if you had to choose and do it all over again to avoid the pains that may happen here and there, would you substitute that for a puppet show for yourself? Be honest with yourself. If you were all alone, wouldn't you want to take of yourself and make something real? Or would you just sit there and make a puppet show for yourself? You would only make a puppet show if you're in horrible fear. If you're feeling attacked, maybe you don't recognize the larger part of yourself anymore, like cancer. You call it Satan. Well, its creations are puppets, because to it can't afford to give free will. It's trying to defend itself against love. That's not going to carry on. Satan in this world plays God and the devil, if you haven't figured that out yet. That's why it runs the Christianity system and it runs Satanism. It's both. Demons play both. That's what they do, because it mimics this whole thing, like I've talked about in The Healing Begins Now. So the part of Satan that will be receptive to the love will be the part of you that receives the love as well. The good part, right? Now the good is not the same thing as the creative, calm spirit that is tremendously entertained and not bored, entertained and not bored, and totally appreciative and excited and aware. Satan still has the memory of what it was like. When we were connected to creation, I didn't do this, and I didn't do this, and I didn't do this. Maybe that knowledge could allow it to create a prison system like this. And so you've become like a tennis ball in a tennis match. And they're hitting you back and forth between good and bad, black and white, right and wrong, sane, insane, the whole thing. Love is not this elated feeling. It's not fluffy-duffy. It's when you truly connect to it, it's very calm. Very calm and very powerful. But you can have various emotional responses to it, which is your conscious individual experience of it, which is your free will, which is the excitement of being a creation. But that's your experience of it. That's not what love is. That's your experience of it. Life is a pretty cool thing, man. Now, some people think we're in a system of universal darkness, and this is all false creation. But that doesn't change anything. See, the sword of truth slices through all of that. The solution is still the same. Don't love a person's body. If that's a creation of darkness, don't love it, but love the spirit inside of it. Love the spirit that animates everything. Be in appreciation of it. And so, you need to learn this new language. How do you do it? Do you have to sit there and meditate? Nope. Become mindful of your thoughts. Why go out into nature? There's so much life out there. Remember that football game analogy? You put out 3 receivers on a play and then there's 3 pass defenders on a play. You go out into life, into nature, and now it's like sending out 300 receivers and having only 10 defenders or something. They can try to intercept the larger scalar mind communicating with itself, but if they defend it here or there, it'll pop up somewhere else. Because animals have not been put through all of these things. Even the predators are even more connected than you are. Even they are, especially in this time. This is why it's very important to get out into nature. Very important. Because that's where the creative spirit is. It's everywhere, of course, but that's where you're going to get the clearest signal. And remember, Earth has an infection right now. So much like your macrophage and much like your body's consciousness assessing a virus, okay, and your immune system, the whole thing, like I talked about before, you're thinking, why are you talking about the immune system and the body? Come on, man. Expand your consciousness. It's all related. See the pattern. Recognize the pattern. Did you hear that train right there? Yeah. That was a natural anchor to what I just said to you. There's a man that pulled that train whistle right now. And the larger mind told his conscious mind that was time for him to pull. There you go, just happened again. Now, remember, it's like playing guitar. At first you're not going to play the chord very well. You're going to screw it up. But you're going to have to go through, if you need to, what I did. What is that? Proving it to yourself. You see, there's that train. The train's been communicating with me for 1.5 years. The train itself hasn't. It's real simple. I'll say, do it twice. Do it once. Do it twice. Do it once. I'll monitor my thoughts. Be very mindful of my thoughts. And pay attention. See when it is silent and when it's not. Now listen, it's not going to answer basic things. You know, if I'm thinking, should I have this type of cereal or should I have that type of cereal? It's not going to sit there and respond to that. But the most crucial things is what life will respond to. You have your conscious mind for your daily activities, for your little experiences consciously. But for the things that are important to Earth right now and to the spirit, it will respond to that because it's very important right now. So at first, you'll say, John's losing it. He doesn't know what's going on. But any spiritual elder on this planet would have told you, and I'm sure you've heard things like this before. Quotes like, there's never nothing to hear and never nothing to see. Yeah, because on one level, everything is you. Scalar reality. You maintain your whole body. What makes you think it doesn't go up higher than yourself? It's your beliefs that have limited you from noticing that. Psychology, media, school, the whole thing played a huge role in robbing you from your natural language. It's not a language of words, although it can utilize them. It's many anchors to your thinking, reinforcers that actually have been guiding you anyway. It has. It's been guiding you anyway. That type of stuff has been guiding you from your subconscious mind and kind of guiding your conscious thinking. But you've had so many other things. Mind control implants. And let me save you the suspense. I know you think the microchip is coming. From what I understand, people have been implanted since the late 70s. But no need to worry about that. Love can overcome that as well. Understand, life is always speaking to you. And you haven't known about it because it's been too difficult to explain to the average person throughout the years. They just couldn't quite get it. Because there are a lot of people that are functioning like robots. They have a mind just like you. But maybe their spirit isn't quite active like you, so they lack the intuition and the awareness. But you both, if you have a strong spirit, and somebody else who does not, you both have a mind. And your minds will interact with each other. And remember, your mind's like this piece of clay on a potter's wheel. The train whistle is like something that comes by and just a little streak on the clay as it's spinning. Sorcery does the same thing. Why do you think they call Harry Potter Potter? That would be their little cryptic metaphor for a sorcerer, placing his hands upon the clay on the potter's wheel, molding the mind. But nothing molds that piece of clay better than love. And nothing has more power over the mind than love. Nothing. So, how does it work then when I say go into nature? It's so simple that people make it complex. It's true. Life speaks to you. Stop trying to project and receive from moment to moment. And what you're going to find is that it all happens way too quickly and it's way too coordinated to, say, communicate to a friend with conscious verbal language from moment to moment about it happening in that moment. But I've come into contact with plenty of people that were kind of psychic, and when that happens, because I've expanded now and I've kind of awakened in this process, a lot of our communication is just yeah, nodding, yeah, because it's instantaneous understanding. You're just psychic with one another. I've had a lot of psychic interactions. And then I ask them, are you getting it? They're like, yep, you can't really put words on it, can you? I'm like, nope. Believe me, people, this is real. But it's not like some new upgrade. This is how you used to be. This is just normal. This is how every animal is. That's why I get a kick out of humans thinking they're the superior being. They're the only ones that don't know this, that can't take advantage of it because they've been disconnected. So you rely upon the mind's calculation and perception. And because you're not consciously aware of the communication from the larger scale of reality, you're not aware of the corruption or the neuro-linguistic programming. People may try to teach that. You can have somebody use that in practice, but they'll do it differently. Maybe they'll work with belief systems. So they'll say a few things in sequence to give rise or potentially give rise to a certain type of thought bubble, and then predict that and then anchor it. Trying to mimic what normally occurs. Now, when a demon's doing it through a person, they're psychic, so they're not so much predicting as they are reading your mind and anchoring it that way. That's how they work, man. You've got to understand, if you sit there and focus on demons, then you're going to bring that to you. Some of us that are part of this wake up, we got to deal with it. Okay? I've got one connected to me that's constantly communicating with me, infusing into my perception psychically. It's not as hard as you think. You see, what is psychic communication? Like if other entities want to put something into my head? Well, right now, for example, You have an auditory field around you, right? Maybe you have various sounds occurring in your room. Maybe you have a fan on, there's a TV in the different room on, which I would turn off, but, just different sounds going on. And you also have my voice, right? So I'm injecting my voice into your auditory perception. I'm adding to it. And you're decoding it and interpreting it with meaning. All right, well, psychic communication is the same thing. It's the same thing, except it's not utilizing your sensory apparatus of the eyes or ears. It's just injecting it directly into your brain's perception. But it's the same thing. It's the same communication. So I can look at something, right? They started using written words, like looking for subliminal messages one night, and it was really getting late. It was like 3 a.m., and I'm like, my eyes were getting blurry. And then it just manifested right on the picture. 3 a.m. eyes, go to bed. Objective reality, it's stuck, it stayed there on the picture. People say, well, show me that picture. Why? For you will say, oh, you just did that yourself. There's no point in that. See, this is what you need to know, and why I wanted to introduce you to the concept of subliminal messages first, but it's not just Photoshop, people. It's etheric. They can psychically put words on things. It does it all of the time in front of me. Literally, man. That's why people be like, this is a matrix. It's well, no, it is illusory, yes. But you manifest as much as they do. It's just your beliefs that you can't that keep you from being able to do